What's up, everybody? Once again, it is I, James, coming to you from the Nerdy Mewzings podcast studio. I am joined today by Mr. Brey, aka the casual hero of Instagram and the art world. How you doing today, Brey?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself, James?
I'm doing pretty good, despite the neck issues and the chiropractic and all that fun stuff I've been dealing with.
Goodness.
Yeah. When they did the x-ray on my neck, the guy goes, yeah, it looks like the neck of somebody who's been a professional athlete for, multiple decades.
Yeah.
He goes, some of this stuff probably isn't related to your injury. It's just there from years and years of wear and tear on the body.
Yeah.
He warned me too. He said, when you get your MRI, just be prepared. We're going to find lots of stuff.
Yeah. So you were pretty athletic like your whole life?
Yeah, I've been in martial arts since I was 10.
Okay.
So, about going on over 37 years of martial arts and pretty much consistently training, 4 to 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Relatively consistently all those years. So, yeah, lots of wear and tear. And I guess I shouldn't be surprised that I'm dealing with little nagging things here and there, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking this morning before hopping on here of kind of how we met. So I got on the Comic Pro Bootcamp with Ryan Benjamin and took one of the classes, and you were on there moderating, and I found your Instagram so I could ask you how to join the Discord.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then here recently, we actually got to meet in real life down at Rose City Comic Con.
Yes, we did.
So I wanted to ask you, how did you get involved with helping Ryan with those boot camp courses?
That's a good question. So I'll take this back a few years. I was in nursing school, and Jim Lee had just started like his live streams,
Oh,
right?
yeah, the Twitch streams.
Yeah, so I was watching because I've always loved Jim's art, and I read comic books from time to time as kind of a de-stressor, pull my brain out of reality and
Yep.
just relax kind of a thing. And then I noticed like over the course of the semester, like my whole book had basically just turned from notes to doodles. And I was like, I've always wanted to be able to draw. So I asked my wife if I could pursue this for real. She was like, yeah, I don't mind. I mean, we're fine. Like,
Yeah.
go for it. And I was like, okay. So I got on one day. Jim was on, and there was like not very many people in chat. So I just took the time to like kind of pressure him. I was like, hey, dude, what do I need to do?
Yeah.
To do this for real? And he gave the typical Jim answers, just draw, dude.
Yeah.
And I was just like, shut the like, tell me what I need to do. I'm a man. Like, I want the reality of it.
Well, I've seen those streams, and I know he's used to dealing with the typical fragile egoed artist or aspiring artist, so he probably has that preloaded, answer just to not hurt people's feelings too much or not give them the true reality of what it takes, right?
Right. So yeah, finally I got it at him. He's like, you need to get a mentor. You need to get somebody that's going to tell you when you're wrong. That day, he rated Ryan, and that was his first Twitch stream ever. So I got on.
Ryan was doing his first Twitch stream, and Jim sent all his people over to raid the
sent
stream.
All his people on a raid. And so we get in, and I'm watching this dude. I'm like, holy cow! Like, I started looking up his name, and I was like, oh, dude, I read Batman Beyond. Oh, I read this issue, Wildcats or Wild or whatever. And I was like, dude, this guy's really, really, flipping good. And I was like, I just asked him. I was like, hey, like, are you teaching people or like you mentoring people? And he thought about it. He's like, I'll get back to you. Emailed me like 2 days later, and we just started going. And
that's amazing.
I think when we started that was kind of like the birth of the idea of Comic Pro Bootcamp. Like he had the idea before, but whatever it was, is that synergy kind of became the union that pushed it forward. Because it was only a few months later they organized the actual in-person boot camp, and I went to the very first one.
Oh, you got to attend in person and everything, man. I've been trying to pull off going to one of the in-person ones. I'll make it happen one of these days, but Yeah, so that's a amazing opportunity. You were kind of there during the inception of it all.
Right. Right, yeah,
Now,
Ryan and I have a pretty good relationship now because of it.
that's awesome. How did that, like, if you were to compare and contrast, I would say that in my, if I had to guess, I would say being in person probably had a little bit more of an impact than doing the online classes. Like, I've done two of the online classes and they're amazing, but being there in person with them looking over your shoulder and giving feedback and stuff, did that really like resonate and have a huge impact?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's the same if you, like, try to learn martial arts over a video program
Yeah.
versus going into a studio and either getting submitted or punched in the face, right?
Yeah.
The learning difference, the energy of excitement of meeting everybody, um, a big difference.
Yeah, I have to imagine. It's funny you say that because when I first got into jiu-jitsu, I had been doing karate for about 9 years, and we were trying to reverse engineer what we saw Hoist Gracie doing in the UFC. So we would
Yeah.
like, me and some of the other karate black belts would sit there and look at bootleg VHS tapes of the UFC pay-per-view and like rewind. Okay, how's he doing his arm like that to set up that choke? Or how's he doing the arm bar? And then when I did have the opportunity, we did that for, gosh, probably over a year. And then when I had an opportunity to try an actual BJJ class at a BJJ school, I learned more in that first week than I did in over a year of trying to reverse engineer and basically
Oh,
learn
yeah.
learn from video, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Well, so you got on there, you were there around the beginning of the online courses as well then.
Yeah.
And you had that connection with Ryan, so you started modding, getting on there and moderating and kind of helping guide things as smoothly as possible, field questions from people and all that. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, yeah, when he got on Twitch, he really focuses in. He's a one-track mind.
Yeah.
And so he gets in when he draws, he wants to draw. So, like Hannah and I would like keep a conversation going and read chat and stuff like that to kind of keep everybody in the loop. So he would be able to hear it audibly,
Right.
but be able to focus on the artwork. So that's kind of how all that worked.
Gosh, you kind of get to be the fly on the wall, and
Yeah,
you're
yeah, I do.
probably picking up so much stuff just from being there and seeing what he's doing on a day-to-day basis, basically, with the course and everything.
Yeah. I got to spend a lot of time with Ryan. There were times where Ryan and I would just stream together just for fun, hang out. I got to do a lot with Alex. I get to do more with Wills. Carlos is the one that I don't get to do as much with,
Okay.
but we have a great relationship too. He's just busy in a different sector with his work and stuff like that. But anytime, yeah, that any of them are around, I'm able to get in. It's just like I'm always yeah, fly on the wall. I think that's a good thing. I've been able to pick up so much that I think has helped me forward because I'm not naturally talented at art. Like, I'm just not. It has been a brute force thing where I have to, like, beat my head against the wall and, like, practice for
Right.
hundreds of hours. Like, some people like, everyone has to learn, but some people pick up the concepts quicker than others, right?
Yeah.
I don't.
Now, did you I think it's accurate to say you got into this later in your life, right? You, because the typical story from a lot of artists that I have on is "Yeah, I've been drawing since I could pick up a crayon," kind of thing, and all of this. Like, you hear like with Jim Lee, like he was drawing on walls and doing all this stuff when he was a little kid, and that's the common story for a lot of people. But I've had a few artists on who got started later, like later in their teenage years or even in their 20s. Like, what was that journey like for you? You made this decision to take this on and take it seriously, because you had that, kind of love of comics in the past and picked them up here and there, and now you're like, I got to switch gears. I want to actually take this seriously. What was that like for you? And kind of take me through the beginning of all of that.
Yeah, so I had tried to draw a few times in the past. I would pick it up for 2, 3 weeks and just get utterly frustrated.
Yeah.
Just be like, "Nope, I'm done." Snap pencils, burn books. I
Yeah.
was done with it. So, when I finally did take it seriously, I think part of it was like my military background was, adapt and overcome. And
Right.
because I had seen that work, like in real life, it gave me a more tangible grasp that like, no, I can really do anything um, if I learn correctly. Like proper instruction is everything. I think we both know that through like martial arts, right?
Definitely.
Proper instruction is absolutely everything. So it was a hard journey just going through, and I had to learn from the ground up. With Ryan just erasing my stuff,
Hmm.
drawing red lines over it. I couldn't have an ego about it. If I had an ego, I'd just be paying and not learning anything.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So you kind of, it was that trial by fire type of thing, right?
Yeah, it was a trial by fire, and I think I started just as I was turning 30.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's awesome, man. Like it sounds to me like you being regimented really is what it took for you to have it start to click, right? Coming from the military background and everything, you needed that structure. You had the mentor, and then you had the structure, and you needed to put in the work.
Right.
Yeah. So now you find yourself like in this whole thing, and I mean, I saw you at a comic convention, so obviously you're going out and you're selling your work and you're getting your stuff out there. How's that experience been?
Different than I thought. And I think part of that is because of how conventions are changing. Um, I think that especially, I mean, the economy is going to change those dynamics as well. So there's like a lot of moving parts. Some of it is like a slow moving cultural thing. Some of it is like fast moving
Yeah.
economic stuff like that. But overall, I think what it was I got in thinking that I'd be able to sell art and kind of bolster the business. And what it actually ended up being was more networking. And the networking is what led to bigger projects,
Yeah.
bigger things getting my name out. So I had to switch gears and think of conventions more of as an investment and less of a money generator. And that was good. Like our first year, we did really good at Rose City. And then all the subsequent ones, not quite as well. And we just kind of paid attention to the trend. No, we do sell art, uh, but people, I mean, with the cosplay phenomenon and a lot of comic conventions have been turning more into fan expos. People
Yeah.
are not necessarily out there for me and my unknown art. Like, if they're gonna buy art, they're typically gonna go to Art Adams and David Finch and all those
Yeah.
guys that are hanging around.
Yeah, or they're there to see celebrities or something. Like
Yeah.
you notice this big shift in a lot of the cons. Like I go to cons for, to pick up old comic books and to buy art and support artists. And it seems to me like a lot of the cons now, you're seeing that shift where Artist Alley is shrinking.
Yes.
Rose City only had 10 comic book vendors in the entire thing. It was like,
Whoa.
whoa, where is everybody? Like, and they're like, yeah, there's only 10 of us here, only ten booths selling comics this year. So I don't know if that is a result of, the vendors, maybe they're not getting their audience that's buying the comics. So not as many of them are paying for a space there, or what's going on. But yeah, it's kind of like you said, there's that shift that's happened, and things have changed a little bit. Because I remember when, like, have you ever been to Emerald City Comic Con in Seattle?
No, I have buddies up there, and I've been trying to get in. They
Yeah.
were backed up 1 year from COVID, and then this last year, we sent in an application. We didn't get in, so
Okay.
hopefully next year. I really want that.
Yeah, man, I'd love to have you up at that. It's I feel like it still draws in a lot of the artists. And the artist alley is usually pretty huge, and all of that. Because they expanded the entire thing to where they moved the celebrities all over to like a different hotel and stuff.
Mhm.
So the con itself is all like, you know, you have all your comics, you have all your artists and everything. And so I think that would be a really good con for you to hit. Like I know Ryan's come to it a few times, and God, that guy makes himself so accessible to like come up and ask him questions, and
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's
it's
very, very
phenomenal.
personable.
Yeah, he's drawn on stuff for me. He showed me had me draw something and then shown me, like you were saying, do the red lines over it and helped, like you said, in person, man, like it clicks.
Yeah.
Because I've done his class and I've done Wils's class and picked up a ton of stuff, but also those experiences in person with Ryan have really been invaluable. Do you find that you're still able to connect with him in person? Have you gotten to go to any additional in-person camps or anything recently?
Yeah, there's only one I haven't been able to make, and that was, I think, the second one. There's one this month in 2 weeks, and I'm trying to get everything sorted out to go to that. But yeah,
I,
Ryan and I, we went to Japan together.
oh, nice.
That was a huge growing moment for me because we spent weeks together. So we didn't really go and tourist a bunch of stuff. We would do a little bit here and there, but we would pull up at a restaurant or, like they have like these really cool seating areas in like their malls and like underground subway areas where it's just like nice seating. We would
Yeah,
sit down and just draw until we passed out.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
God, what an experience. Yeah, Japan just seems like an amazing place for art. Like my wife and I have talked about wanting to go there because we like cats and we like art and comics and things, and it seems like Japan is big on a lot of those things.
Yeah.
I see all these artists go and buy all their art supplies there to bring back for the year. Like some of the
Yep.
art stores there look insane. Did you get to go to any of the art stores while you were there?
Oh yeah, we went to a bunch. I mean, even they even have like their general stores, like Tokyo Hands is like a pretty like I don't want to call it a Walmart, but it's like it's got everything in it, right? Even their art section was pretty good.
Wow.
Like, and none of it was crazy expensive either. So we were
Yeah.
going in, and I would buy like a new mechanical pencil from like every store. If I could find like a point 0.5 or a point 0.7 in a really
Yeah.
cool design that was like red or black, I would pick that up and add it to my collection because I'm a nut like that. And
Red
then I
or
was trying
black.
out all the
Nice.
wood pencils, all the softnesses. I would try out a 2B, an HB,
Red red
sometimes an
and
H.
red and black are my jiu-jitsu school's colors, so
Yeah.
good stuff. I like
Yep.
it. Yeah, I'm a mechanical pencil junkie. I have way too many. You can see my little art cart back there, just
Yeah.
like thousands of black wing pencils and every kind of mechanical pencil, and that's just like one of many sections. It's funny how I don't know if you're this way, but I kind of get into collecting the supplies. Like I have
Yeah.
more stuff than I'll ever use in my lifetime, but I know I have it if I need it, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's something interesting about it kinda reminds me because 'cause I'm a musician too. Sometimes I buy stuff just to have it, like, not
Yeah.
even that I need it, but I'm like, "This thing is cool and I want it."
Yeah. Yeah, and I find too, like with a lot of the art supplies and things, like it's out of support. Like some of these companies are, like smaller companies like Eon with the inks and the paper and everything. Like I like supporting their stuff. Like I have to give them a shout out because I bought some of this. This is their new ink,
Mhm.
Eon Velvet Squid ink. Not actually squid ink, I don't think. But what was cool about that is, I've been supporting them over the years because I see them supporting a lot of my friends who are artists like Justin Mason and people like that. And Eon like hooks them up and sends them paper from time to time. And when I ordered that, the first two bottles had leaked. So there was ink all over the inside of the package and everything. And I told the guy, I messaged him on Instagram. I said, "Hey, I don't want a refund or a replacement or anything. I'm just letting you know from a logistic standpoint in case it helps you like work on the packaging or whatever so this doesn't happen." And he's like, "Oh no." He's like, "I already sent out like as soon as I saw your message, I sent out two more bottles." I'm like, that's pretty cool, man. Like supporting these smaller companies and the customer service is great. So, yeah,
Yeah,
a lot of my supplies come from stuff like that, like liking what somebody's doing and then supporting their business.
right.
Um,
I
so,
think there's a shift back to that
yeah,
culturally.
yeah, I think so. So, to switch gears a little bit, well, it's kind of within that same topic, though. When it comes to your art, are you working in the traditional mediums on paper or do you delve between digital and traditional art?
Most anything I do for an actual production is on paper. So
Okay.
I use digital for different things. It's really nice to not waste paper if I'm doodling or doing a study or I want to do a trace or
Yeah.
anything like that to kind of like help me learn. I really love digital.
Yeah.
But with the rise of AI and all that stuff, I just want away from it. Like
Yeah.
I don't like it. I don't like how everybody who's not good enough to put in the blood, sweat, and tears over years wants to hop on the bandwagon and then claim that right. It's like stolen valor, basically, right?
Totally. Yeah.
So for me, it was like, nope, hard pass. We're going pretty much all of it. Like I had done work before digitally, and I don't mind doing some like graphic design stuff. But even then, I will still do like paper concepts. So I'm always having paper with me in a project, character
Yeah.
design, sketching, whatever. I'll do pencils. A lot of times I'll ink it traditionally, which traditional inking is one of the hardest skills I've ever
Yeah.
tried. Like, I
It
shout out
is.
to the inkers out there who are good
Yeah.
because you make comic books.
Telling you, I'm working on that Colossus piece that's behind me back there, and I decided to ink it, and I'm just like toiling over that thing, and I'm like, man, this is hard. Like inking is just such an art form in and of itself.
It is. It is.
Yeah, I just had John Levasseur on here. So very, God, he was back in with Image like in '93, and
Yeah,
like
he
a
was at a
phenomenal,
stream.
yeah, phenomenal inker, and we were talking about that and just like all the like how people don't realize how much goes into it and the job of the inker, and how a lot of people don't understand that most inkers are proficient artists themselves,
Yeah.
like especially if they're finishing work and they're
Mhm.
having to go in and somebody's just doing a little rough sketch that just has enough information in there, but then they need to have an understanding of anatomy and everything else to go in there and complete it. So yeah, I think inkers are definitely the underrated heroes of the
Oh,
comic book
100%.
industry.
I was actually talking to him too. He was hanging out with us at San Diego. We're
Nice.
gonna try to do some stuff together, but I gotta bring my pencils up to his level because that dude is insane. Like
O-
his lines, his spacing, everything is like crisp and
Okay, so
gorgeous.
this is gonna go on record because John is very down on himself about his penciling abilities.
Okay.
He told me he's like horrible, and I wouldn't believe how horrible it was, and I said, I don't really believe you. I'm sure it's a little bit better than you're thinking. And he was telling me, and he spoke it into the universe, so I think he's going to do it. He said that Ryan's been getting on him about getting to penciling and focusing on that more. So now that we have this on here, it's going to be documented online as well. Hopefully he sees it. John, you gotta do it, man. You got a great mentor in Ryan. You gotta do it.
Well, yeah, and with all of his ability in the inking medium, I
Yeah,
mean,
phenomenal.
he won't need us anymore.
Yeah, yeah. He's really good.
Yeah, yeah.
He's helping out that kid, Joshua Durstein,
Mhm.
who's doing that Amarok Kickstarter, and John's
Yeah.
inking his stuff. So it was just cool. Like you want to talk about the mentor thing. Like Josh found his mentor in John,
Mhm.
and he's been guiding him and helping him and all of that. So yeah, going back to what you said about the cons becoming more of like a community thing or a making connections, like several artists that have been on here have talked about that, and they actually said that that's like the secret, is like going into those to build those connections and meet people and build those friendships and things like that. And you're not the first one to say that, like a lot of things have come from those connections.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just my last stop in San Diego, just knowing Ryan, everybody that came to the table, like, they followed me, they started hanging out with me, had conversation, and they're all huge names, and I'm
Yeah,
like
it has to be surreal.
yeah, it really is. So, like, what's that saying? Location, location, location.
Yeah, yeah. San Diego, I've gotten to go one time. So I was very fortunate. The year that I went, Kim Jong-gi was there, and I
Oh,
got to get a couple of his books, and I got to have him do his drawing inside them and everything. So I feel very blessed that I had that opportunity
yeah.
to meet him and to get him to draw in one of those art books and everything. Did you get to be around him at all when you were with Ryan? Because I know Ryan was able to spend a lot of time with him over the years.
Yeah, I unfortunately did not. Um, it's something that would have been really cool. It's just those paths never crossed
Yeah,
for me.
yeah, yeah. Such a master of art. I think it's insane
Mhm.
looking at his stuff and just wonder where he was pulling it from. Like he must have had a photographic memory or something.
I think he just had confidence.
Yeah.
You ever watch him and oh man, there's another Carl Kopinski
Yes,
is
Carl's
another guy.
amazing.
They are perfectly imperfect, right? If you actually look at the line work, a lot of it is, it's not that like crisp, like perfect line.
Pretty loose.
It's loose and
Yeah.
they follow it and they go from shape to shape and they build off that. So I think it's more of like I'm pulling back away from the piece
Right.
and I'm looking at the size relationship of all the shapes, the face compared to the torso, but they're not constructing it, right? They're just going straight to
Yeah.
the areas that are going to kind of define it.
Yeah.
And that's why they're loose because it gives it actually a little bit of a realism, a little bit of a lean and a play. And so they're able, if they're confident enough in their skills to make shape, they're able to essentially just project it, boom, straight
Yeah.
down. I think it's a confidence thing.
Yeah, confidence, and probably they're able to paint such a clear picture of it in their mind before they put it in the paper, and they
Right.
can actually take that to the paper, like, without any disconnect.
Right.
That
And I think they do a lot of study in terms of, texture and reference. So like Kim
Yeah,
Jong-gi would draw a lot of military stuff. And I do believe it's because of his time in the military. So
right.
he would look at the helmets, he would look at the stuff while he was there, and he would grab the essence of, kind of what makes that what's the camo texture?
Yeah,
What's the this? What's the rendering look? Why is that shiny? And so it kind of going with the shape, he would place his shapes and then he would have that detail reference to pull from.
yeah, building a comprehensive visual library
Yeah.
of all things, and, like, he was always drawing. Like, he would have his sketchbook, and he would always be drawing, and I think there's something to be said. It goes back to what you were saying about doing the work and being regimented and just doing it over and over and over again.
Yeah, man, like practice makes permanent, right? And
Yeah,
if you practice it eventually it'll just become your thing. It's like I heard somebody describe it as talking. When you're learning a new skill, it's like learning to talk. At first you talk like a baby.
yeah,
But as you learn the language, like for art or martial arts or whatever, as you learn the language of how to speak the thing, eventually you just begin to flow. Like we don't have to think about talking anymore because we've been doing it so long, so often.
exactly.
Same thing with art. Like Ryan is that same way. Ryan can just blah, onto a page and it's something we'd all pay a lot of money for because it's really good.
Oh,
And it's
yeah.
like 10 minutes.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's so fast. I remember
Unbelievably.
I remember on one of the boot camp sessions, he couldn't divulge details beyond that he was doing something with Frank Miller, and he said he was so excited when he got the initial script and everything. He did, like, I forget what he said, like 4 or 6 pages, like super quick, like in a day or day and a half or something. Like, it's just, again, I think it goes to that confidence,
Yeah.
because he can just put it out there and refine. Like, I think that's another thing for me that really has freed me up with my art. Was it actually came from watching Jim Lee's Twitch streams and realizing how often they erase and make corrections.
Mhm.
Like, I would see Jim do this amazing, what to me is a phenomenal drawing, and then, like, erase 3/4 of it and start over and go
Yeah.
again, you know?
And
I
I
think
think
we I
Go
was
ahead,
just
sorry.
real quick. I was going to say, I think we, as aspiring artists, we have this impression that it just comes out perfect the first time for them, and that they never use an eraser, and you know, that was a common misconception that definitely, when you have the ability to actually watch these guys work, you do realize they make mistakes and they're correcting things at all times.
Right. Ryan actually told me that he would, some guys would, kinda make fun of him in the studio because he would erase so much. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Nobody's laughing now."
No,
But,
nobody's laughing.
yeah, I think, like, it's a they have a proper priority list when it comes to drawing, and if you try to put the big pieces where they're supposed to go, the head, the torso, the arms, and you focus just on those general things, place them where they're supposed to go, and focus on do all the erasing there before you get into the details. Change that arm little bit by little bit. Oh, the
Yeah.
torso, it's looking flat, so pull this shoulder over, get that. If you focus on that, then once you actually have like a mannequin that looks cool on its own, putting the detail on just goes. It's like it
Yeah.
draws itself from that point. And I think for a lot of young artists, like that was a big thing for me. I was always trying to emulate Ryan, and I'm just not that fast. And I had to tell myself, like, okay, he's going 60 miles an hour, you got to go 30.
Yeah.
So follow the
Like
same
when you're
patterns,
first
just slow
learning
it
how to
down a bit.
drive,
Right.
right? When you're first learning how to drive, you're not out there doing 60. You might be a little tentative.
Exactly. So yeah, that's what I started doing. I just started, okay, erase. Oops, sorry.
You're all
Move it,
good.
change, pull the torso. Just take a little bit extra time to examine
Yeah.
before I start moving into things.
Well, and when you start getting to learn from all these different people, and it's no different than like all my art books over there. They all start with what? Like fundamentals,
Mhm.
structure. Hey, don't jump to that. Don't try to finish it too soon. Make sure everything's correct in your mannequin or your structural forms and everything. But it always comes back to that. Like you gotta master the basics first before you can become advanced, right? But
Oh yeah.
I think for any of us, the temptation is we have an idea in our head and we can see the cool finished way that it looks, and we try to get there way too quick.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I know I've fallen victim to that on many occasions.
Yeah, and I think that's probably one of the biggest lessons for all of us artists. Is same thing in martial arts. You know how many guys, especially in jujitsu, will jump right to I want to learn 100 submissions,
Oh
and
yeah.
they don't know how to pass guard.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sorry, I don't care how many submissions you know. If you cannot pass guard, you will gas out
Yeah.
and you're toast. And or somebody
Yeah.
will get you in like a half guard leg lock and you're done.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny that you say that because there's so many, especially nowadays, because well, it's the same with art now. Like the instruction is there, it's readily available. You could sit on YouTube for 10,000 hours and never watch all the art instruction, and same with martial arts. Like I could get on there on Instagram or YouTube, and there's hundreds of thousands of hours of instruction on BJJ, and new students are so excited to learn that they go on there and they want to work on this thing that requires 10 years of fundamental training.
yeah.
I, I remember when I a long time ago, I had this white belt come in, and he was like on his second or third class, and he had seen something on YouTube, like a really advanced low percentage move that he
Mhm.
saw somebody pulled off in a tournament or something. And he's like, Coach, can you show me this flying go-go plata or whatever? And I'm like, I go, if you can get out of side control once, I'll show you the flying go-go plata.
Right.
He's like, well, I can't get out of side control. I get stuck. I'm like, focus on that. You're
Yeah,
gonna,
that's what's gonna save your life.
that's
Yep.
what's going to save your bacon down the road. Right.
Yeah, absolutely, and that needs to be such an important thing. I don't know if you noticed this. I feel like martial arts has these trends, and it's like as soon as a martial art becomes popular, it rises, gets super watered down, and then crashes. Like
100%.
karate in the 80s was so brutal,
Yep.
and then everyone wanted to be a karate master, and so you got all the fakes, you got all the watered down stuff,
Yep.
and you got all the kids, they didn't wanna get punched in the face, and then it just crashed.
Yeah.
And it's taken a long time for us to, like, redefine. what
Yep.
that art is, and I'm worried jujitsu
Oh,
is
it's already well into that, going
it's
that
already well into
direction.
oh, man.
Yeah, well, typically it correlates with whenever these martial arts become really popular here in the United States,
Right.
they tend to become money-making ventures for
Mhm.
some people, and it all these shortcuts develop to keep student retention up,
Right.
and things get watered down, and especially in BJJ, like when it comes to promotions, like, bro, I was like a blue belt for like 4 years. I was a purple belt for like 3 or 4 years. Like there
Yeah.
wasn't like, come to X amount of classes and now you're going to get a stripe, or you're going to be this belt after you've done 100 classes. It was like, you're ready when you're ready, and if you even asked if you were ready, you were getting maybe another year at that belt just
Yeah.
for asking. Right now it's become about the easiest way to retain students, which is for them to be getting that reward all the time, right? And that's one of the ways in which I've seen BJJ get watered down, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it comes down to, people who have been around and recognizing that, maintaining the standard, and trying to lift everybody up and make people realize it's more about having the knowledge and the skill than it is being able to say what belt you are.
Correct. Correct.
Do you think that there's any correlation in art with that? Are there any trends in art that you see that maybe suffer from that? Like,
Yeah,
for
100%.
example, I can think of like with digital. Okay, first off, let's preface this by saying you still have to know how to draw digitally, but there are a lot of shortcuts, especially when it comes to inking. There's like literally brushes that can make it look like you cross hatched for an hour, right? Or there's you can do like certain shading with a brush, and things that they do save time, but you're noticing, I think you're probably noticing this, and I've heard like other people talk about it, a lot of sameness. Like a lot of the artists right now, like if you look at Marvel or DC, like a lot of the work, it's hard to tell who the artist is. It all kind of has this same look.
Yes.
Do you think that's the result of that? Like they're all using the same tools, so
100%.
yeah.
So, I started Crimson Titan Studios, and I have a couple of artists under me right now that I've been developing, and it's taken about a year. And one of the things I had to break was digital brushes. I
Right.
am sorry, do not use a digital brush. Dan Mora can use a digital, enhancing brush.
Yeah.
Jorge Jimenez can
Yeah.
use those brushes.
But
Right?
they're the kind of the exception, right? Versus the norm.
Yeah, because they have the rest of the background to know how the brush
Yeah.
is supposed to work. So,
And
um,
you can watch those guys draw at a con traditionally,
correct.
and it looks just as amazing.
Right. And that's because they understand the traditional tool of the brush.
Yeah.
So when you're getting those interesting streak marks, it's like, oh, that's a sponge that's dipped in ink and then, drug.
Yeah.
Like there are ways to do it. And when you understand all that stuff, yeah, you like your foundation's good. You can take that shortcut, but it's because it's supported by all, that underlying information.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I had people using cross hatching brushes, and the problem is the cross hatching is not going in the direction of the scene,
Correct.
right? So if the perspective changes, that flat hatching brush doesn't work anymore.
Yep.
And if you have to cut something out and then move it, and then you try to repaste it in, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And I had all those issues, and I had to tell people, "No. Like, do not do this. You are going to kill yourself because you're gonna stay stuck here, and I will not print that.
Yeah.
I don't care if your anatomy's off. I don't care if this or that is off. Stop being lazy in your approach. Like, you need to care about this, right? You need to put you into this." And that was one of the big moves of more and more, I'm getting more strict with paper scripts and paper
Yeah.
layouts, paper everything.
I think there's an adage that I like to use, and I don't know who to attribute it to, but it's you have to master the ordinary before you can command the extraordinary.
That's a really good saying.
So when you see people jumping into the digital tools before they have that foundation and that understanding of the traditional form of that tool, they're trying to jump in and kind of make something look a certain way when they don't understand like the foundation of how to create that in the real world, so to speak.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I find that you're definitely seeing like I think a lot of it too like has to some extent be driven by the publishers because at the end of the day the publisher kind of doesn't necessarily care as much about the art as we do. And if
Right.
somebody is able to crank out cookie cutter work that gets the pages in and meets that deadline, I think a lot of it is stemming from that as well.
Right.
Like they
And
can,
those people should be fired because they're
yeah,
not actually making the company more money.
yeah.
And I've talked to Alex about this. So,
That's you're referring to just so the listeners know. Are you referring to Alex Sinclair,
correct. Sorry. Yeah,
the
Alex Sinclair.
colorist? Yeah,
When he did Hush, there were some of those backgrounds and different things he used watercolor on,
yeah.
right? And when they went through and they did Hush, they didn't necessarily have a timeline. Like that book was not a monthly. They
Oh
spent their
yeah.
time on it. That book outsells still plenty of other things.
Oh yeah.
It's still making money. So, is it worth it to cram something out or is it worth it to actually create a work of art that will live
Yeah.
on?
Yeah. Well, and Jim did some amazing like ink wash stuff in there, and like
Yeah.
some of that stuff was just to this day is just top of the line, right? Like
Oh, yeah.
phenomenal. Like I look at that. I have all the different editions, the big black and white one, like all of those, and
See, you keep buying all the different because of
oh,
how good it is.
I
I'm the
do.
same way. I got Hush, Hush
Yeah.
Noir, Hush Unwrapped.
Yeah, I'm out of room. This bookshelf, I'm waiting for it to implode because the top of it has, gosh, probably about 20 of the IDW artist editions, you know,
Yes.
that have the scans of the original pages and
Yeah, yeah.
stuff.
Oh,
And
yeah, I got a bunch of those over here.
dude, yeah, and a lot of them are on the floor because I'm worried that the shelf's gonna collapse. Gosh, you want to talk about somebody with gritty, like in who works traditionally. I just got that Extremity Artist Edition from Daniel Warren Johnson,
Ooh,
the Kickstarter, dude, just phenomenal. Like the way that guy goes to the page, you know, pencils very loose and then is doing most of his drawing in ink. It's really cool to look at those originals and just drool over them.
that is so sick.
Yeah,
I've been looking I haven't found one, but I would really love a Greg Capullo. Have you seen one
dude.
of those?
Like a artist edition book?
Yeah.
No, the only ones I have are like the unwrapped was it from the Court of Owls where
Yeah,
it's
I've
the
got that
pencils
one.
or whatever, but yeah, an artist edition from him would be that would be amazing.
Dude, he's one of the strangest artists, and I mean that in a good way because
Yeah.
he has a very, like, animated, almost cartooniness with
Yeah.
all of the grittiness, and they, like, smash together, and it's like
Yep.
his faces are so expressive, and then there's all this shadow and I'm like, "How did you come up with this style,
Yeah.
man?" Like
He's always been in my top 5 like
oh, yeah.
favorite artists, and I had the opportunity to hang out with him one time when he came here to Washington State, and my listeners are sick of my retelling of my stories. That I worked for a comic shop that Todd McFarlane co-owned with his brother-in-law. So when like the image guys would I actually got to hang out with Wills one time way back in the day. He would never remember it, but they brought Dan Fraga, they brought Stephen Platt, Wills, Todd, and one of the times Greg was there, so I got to like see his originals in person, and that was right when he started to transition and develop that style.
Mm,
Because if you look at Greg's work, like the stuff he did on X Force and some of his old Marvel stuff, he's more like, it kind of looks more like John Buscema stuff because
Yeah.
Buscema is like his favorite artist and everything. And then when he started working with Todd and Todd started inking his stuff, it slowly started developing that more cartoony and gritty and all of this. So I think probably like working with Todd had a little bit of an influence on him and was part of that development into what we see today.
Yeah, I could totally see that because Todd is, even though Todd is very different,
Yeah.
I can see that that parallel because Todd has some more animated
Yeah.
style choices, but he always went super gritty, like with his details and stuff
Yeah.
like that. You know, the webbing, just
It's
ridiculous.
like yeah, spaghetti webbing. Yeah, it's like Greg managed to pull the cartooniness from Todd and like the camera work and everything, but meld it with like proper anatomy and
Yeah.
everything. So it's like very exaggerated, but everything still works. Like, have you been picking up any of his stuff he's been doing on Wolverine?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I haven't picked it up yet. I need to get my
Okay,
pull. I don't live next to a comic shop, so I always have to travel an
gotcha.
hour away or something to go get my stuff.
So you'll have 3 issues waiting for you if you go now, because
Sick.
the 3rd issue just came out, and it's some of it a little different than his normal work. I feel like they're really hitting their stride on issue 3, because I don't think Tim Townsend's ever inked him before, and so Tim Townsend's the one inking him on this. Because usually it was like, I think Danny Mickey inked him a lot, and
Yeah,
Jonathan Glapion,
yeah,
but now Tim's doing this stuff on Wolverine over him, and it's like it's really cool. Like, it's cool to see somebody different interpreting his pencils and everything, because Greg's another one of those that kind of goes in there just like Jim Lee. They go in there kind of loose and leave a lot of room for interpretation for the inker.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely. James, can I get 1 second, real quick?
Yeah, yeah, no
Hold on.
worries.
Sorry.
Yeah, not a problem.
Whoop. They ended up giving the kids a day off after Halloween that
Oh,
wasn't
really?
planned for.
Give them
So,
a lot of candy and send them home?
oh yeah,
That's awesome, man. No, we were talking about, Greg. I was telling you about the Wolverine Revenge and how Tim Townsend's working over him and everything. So yeah, you definitely need to get to your comic shop and pick up those 3 issues, because
I
it's
do.
been pretty cool. Do you know if they pulled the, red band versions for you or the regular version?
I don't know.
So they're doing these red band versions where it's got a little bit more, like there's some extra art. Like, it's not a lot. It'll be like 2 to 3 pages maybe additional in the whole issue, or some of the panels will be have more graphic, like blood and guts and things
Oh,
in
well,
them.
awesome.
Yeah, so, they've been selling out really quick. I'm only able to get a hold of the one for the 2nd issue. I actually went to the shop and grabbed it. But what's lame is I get a lot of my comics on Comixology,
Hmm.
digital, and, just because I'm literally running out of room for my comic collection from back in the day, but they don't have the red band version on Comixology.
Interesting.
Yeah, they only sell the standard version on there.
That would
So,
that would make sense because I think they could charge a little bit more for that, and so if they get it in the print,
yeah. Yeah, and it comes, like, polybagged, and it has the red band across the front and all of
yeah.
that. So, yeah, if you can score one of those, there's, like, some sick, like, you wanna talk about gritty. like the end of the first issue and the red band one. It's pretty sick.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, it is an awesome shot of Wolverine. Yeah, yeah, that they can't show in the non-red band version one.
That's too
Yeah,
funny. It's interesting that Wolverine comes up because I'm not like the biggest Wolverine. Like I like Wolverine, right?
right.
Um, Somehow Wolverine is like the one that I'm always drawing. That's
That's
like the big one.
interesting.
Everybody wants a Wolverine from me, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not known for this. Like,
Maybe your style though, maybe your style lends itself to that. You know, when people
it
see your
might something I
style,
don't see in
they might.
myself. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I know for me, like there's certain characters that I just love to draw. For me, it's kind of the always been the bigger muscular characters.
Colossus.
Hulk,
Yeah,
Colossus, that type of stuff, and drawing normal proportion characters is something that I'm definitely working on as well. Like I think we all like for you, what is it? What's your kind of go to? Like if you could pick a type of character that you really enjoy drawing.
it's probably between like a Batman or like a Cloud Strife, and I know that's kind of a big difference. Like Cloud is
Okay,
kind of skinny, muscular.
right.
Um, Batman's like obviously like bigger, muscular, but he's not like distorted.
Yeah,
So somewhere in that like middle range, I think is kind of where I thrive. I don't do skinny characters very well. I have a hard time making skinny characters look interesting.
yeah,
And I'm still working on my like my big heavy characters like Hulk. A lot of times I'm focusing so much on just the size that I
yeah,
sometimes forget to add the weight. And that's
yeah,
what I'm trying to get is like the weightiness so that even if I don't draw Hulk 20 feet tall, right? If he's like, 10 feet tall or whatever, like,
yeah.
just everything just looks like it's got an oomph to it.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely that's something too that I struggle with, like the sense of weight and like they're actually being affected by gravity. Like
Yeah.
Hulk needs to look like he's lumbering, like literally fighting gravity to move his body
Yes.
in my with his muscle hanging off of him and everything. It was funny what you just referenced Batman as being normally proportioned, but have you seen Absolute Batman?
I have. I'm actually okay, I'll say this, and I'm not here to, like, piss anybody off, and,
Yeah.
I'm not huge necessarily on all, like, the costume elements,
Yeah.
but I love that they're just leaning into that he is a unit.
Yeah.
Like,
Did you pick it
Superman.
up? Did you
Huh?
pick up the first issue?
No, I read it digital.
So I
So,
really enjoyed it. I was like
it's cool.
going into it super skeptical and I was like, man, this is way over they're overhyping this thing. It's probably and then I like really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah, you're like the third artist that's been on here that it's come up and that it was like, yeah, actually we really enjoyed it.
Well, yeah, and I think it speaks to how good, like, the storytelling is, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of things in it that I'm like, "That's goofy, that's weird, I would never do blah, blah," and I'm still just, like, eating it up because of just
Yeah.
how good the tension is in the story, and, like, I wanna know where this goes. I really
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, that was actually the first like issue one I've gone in to my shop and picked up in person in like over 10 years. So
Yeah.
like when I read it digitally, I still had time to put in an order and I was able to get a couple copies of the first issue and I was like, yeah, it's pretty dang cool. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was and the main complaint I've found that people I've talked to about it who haven't read it, and I won't give any spoilers, I haven't so far on here, but they all complain about his chest symbol. And I
Yeah.
go, I get it, but when you read the first issue and you realize that serves a purpose, and
It's
when
true.
you see what that purpose is, you're gonna be like, "Oh, actually, that's pretty damn cool."
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely different. I mean,
Yeah,
I have a particular symbol that I like, and I would have probably finagled a little bit different, but yeah, when you see it actually get used, you're like,
yeah. And it's not what people think from, when Frank Miller did Batman, where it was like,
"Not at
it was
all."
like armor or whatever. Like it's
So,
yeah.
what did you think of the ears?
I thought that was cool too.
Thought that was cool.
Yeah, yeah. I'm here. I'm along for the ride, man. I'm interested to see where it goes because, like, and they're probably doing this intentionally because they're trying to get a barometer for how it's doing, but they haven't really said like how extensive these runs of these books are going to be. Like,
Correct.
they haven't said if they're going to be miniseries or if they're going to continue this. So my guess would be they probably have a bigger overarching plan if it goes well, but
Mhm.
they could also always transition and switch gears if it's not doing well.
Right. I think it's a good idea because I think it needs to add competition to the main line,
Yeah,
right? If you have 2 teams competing to do good against each other, that's way better for the reader. That's
definitely.
way, way better for the reader, and in my opinion, is I'm a huge Batman fan. Like,
Yeah,
I
me too.
read obscure things, I have all the Batman comics of him killing people, and
Yeah,
yes, he does it
he
all the
does.
time.
Yes.
Um, I love every little nitty-gritty aspect of, like, why it seems like he can disappear. Well, there's this obscure issue where he was training in the mountains with this Taoist guy who was teaching him about ki, and, like,
Yeah.
he was using his energy to bend the light and mask himself. Oh, the one and that totally
Yeah.
makes sense. Like, little things like that, I just, like, froth at the mouth for.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
when they when we got to the kind of this point, I started getting really bored with Batman. Like, New 52 was awesome.
Yeah.
I loved it. It seemed like every volume that we hit in New 52 was like just this new giant arc that was like
Yep.
the final every it always felt like the final battle.
Yeah.
And that was so cool. And then in Rebirth, it kind of flattened for me. It really flattened and they weren't really pushing the character, challenging the character, doing
Yeah.
anything. And it's refreshing to get a Batman who is pushing boundaries because
Yeah.
that's what's exciting, right?
Yeah, definitely. I like what they're doing. I picked up the Wonder Woman as well, and it was better than I was anticipating also.
I'm hoping that is good. I need
Yeah.
to go read it. I am a little off put by how much that sword is just the Buster sword, though. I'm
Oh,
like,
dude,
you couldn't have
totally.
changed the shape just a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they didn't try too hard to make it unique.
And it probably came from the fact that Jim drew Cloud that one time and it like blew up. Maybe
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
who actually concepted it out, but it's cool. It is
Yeah,
cool.
that's the thing, right? Is it cool? Yes.
Yeah, I
Switching.
like. Do you like how Absolute is more unapologetically violent?
Yes.
Me too.
Yeah. And I think they are having this realization, which, I mean, it's no secret. Like, at the end of the day, like, fan service isn't necessarily a bad thing, right?
Right.
Like, it's funny how we have this whole thing, like, downplaying, like, fan service or talking badly about fan service, but ultimately the fans that are the ones you have to please. So I think they see, like, how well, like, something like Deadpool and Wolverine does, like, over the top,
Mhm.
gritty violence, like, in all of this, and it'd kind of be dumb to not see if that works in the comics too.
Right. Well, and it's always been there. It's just like I feel like DC in particular has throughout the time, and this is really the fault of the fans, not the storytellers,
Right.
has purposely been naive to how brutal some of these characters have been.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Batman breaking people's bones, crushing, skulls and stuff like that.
Yep.
It's like it just makes me laugh. Like in the Christian Bale movies, is like no guns, no killing. In each one of those movies, he kills somebody. And
Yes.
even in the last movie, he uses a gun
Yep.
strapped to a helicopter to kill somebody. And it's like,
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with Batman doing what he needs to do. Just
Right.
don't be naive about it. Like, I'm not stupid. I know what he's doing. He just shot a rocket at a semi
Yeah.
truck. That
Yeah.
dude died.
Exactly. Yeah, it's funny.
That's actually one of the reasons I actually kind of like Batman versus Superman. Like,
Oh, I enjoyed it.
yeah, I
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Batman just being unapologetic, like,
Yeah.
no, I got to stop these guys, and really like the line crossing is with Superman because he's premeditated.
Yeah.
That is like the big difference. It's like he's planning to kill somebody.
Right, right.
That's an issue.
Yeah, yeah, it's a little bit different for that character.
Yeah,
New,
that
new
was
territory there.
that was I like that movie quite a bit actually.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Speaking of Batman, so not too long ago, was it like a week or two ago, the news came out that Jim has been working on a new Hush series
Yes.
with Jeff Loeb, and he's sounds like he's actually been drawing it for a while now. I have a theory, and I also listened to Rob Liefeld's podcast, and he had the same theory that when Jim saw what Mark Silvestri did with the Batman Deadly Duo,
Deadly Duo, so good.
it kind of sparked that fire of the old competitive, because when those guys started Image, they were constantly trying to one up each other and
Right.
compete and outdo each other. So his theory, and I think there's probably something to this, when Jim saw that and saw how well it did, he's like, probably called up Jeff, okay, we need to we need to do this, and now we're going to see like some killer Jim Lee work that's beyond words, right?
Good, because
Yeah.
I was actually gonna ask you about Deadly Duo.
Yeah.
Dude, I
Phenomenal.
holy smokes.
Do you know how long he was working on that?
Oh, well, like yeah,
Over
years.
over a decade.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was showing guys the pages that he was doing like over 10 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. He's like, here's this Batman thing I've been working on. Yeah, and he was literally going in there and doing all of that's his ink work and everything. And he was going in there with like multi-liners and doing all the crazy rendering, uh, heavy Bernie Wrightson.
Mhm.
Like you could see a lot of Bernie Wrightson in there. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
pretty, like everything has a texture.
Yep.
Yeah, so he was like tedious with that thing. It seems like it was just a true labor of love. Like I didn't put a lot of weight into the story. I was just on there to see Mark's art.
Right, yeah. And it delivers, like
It does. And I'm assuming you have like the black and white version and all of that, right?
no, I still gotta get the black and white version. Is that the inked?
I forget what they called it. I have it on Comixology, and it's I forget the name of it, but they did like they did a few different versions. And I think there's one of those. Do you ever buy the international books? Like there's some international publishers that do artist editions and things that you can't get anywhere else. Supposedly there's a Deadly Duo one of those, but I can't find it.
That would be nuts.
Yeah,
I would like to see that at full size.
I would like to see that at full size as well. And I would like to see if I'm assuming he kept scans of his pencils and stuff too.
Oh, probably.
So I'd really like to see what it looked like before he went in there and inked it, and see like if he was doing a lot of the drawing when he inked it, like if he kept everything really loose, or
Mhm.
because Mark, traditionally he's a very tight penciler.
Yes.
Like he's someone that goes in there and puts all the rendering and has all the line weights, and
He's so interesting because he's a very tight line artist, but he's a
yeah,
loose renderer.
yeah,
Isn't that such an because it's normally the opposite with people.
yeah. It's an interesting contrast there.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's somebody I would like to see on a regular book again.
Yeah, I agree. I wish because I met him at San Diego. I really wish I had more time to talk to him, but they had a bunch of handlers around the booth, and that just makes me
Oh,
uncomfortable, and I'm like, "I don't wanna be a
yeah.
bother," like, it just kinda killed the vibe for me, so
Yeah.
I got some stuff, had him sign it, said a quick piece, and then got out of there because, like, I don't wanna be handled. I'm not a
Yeah.
child. It just
Yeah.
infuriates me.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, he seems like somebody who's like reached that upper level of things where you would have a lot of people around him and all of that.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's running Top Cow at the same time of doing his own stuff, so, like,
Yeah.
it makes sense. I get it. You got a lot going on. I don't think it's I mean, Mark was kinda cool. He actually seemed like he was kind of annoyed with them kinda
Right.
micromanaging too, but, I
Yeah.
mean, he was in the middle of drawing a Witchblade when I got there, and
Oh
I
man.
happened to get there right when nobody else was around, so it was super
Nice.
cool to just creep on him and,
Yeah.
watch him actually work. I'm like, "Whoa, dude."
Dude, what an opportunity. Well, as we start to work our way towards closing things up, I wanted to talk a little bit about what you're currently working on that you can speak about, give you an opportunity to uh, plug your studio and everything. I know you said you had some artists coming up under you and you guys are working on some things, and then finally, after all of that, just giving people the opportunity to know where to look for you online and everything.
Yeah, so I started a thing called Crimson Titan Studios, and it was out of a need for Comic Pro Bootcamp, actually, to bridge people in terms of practical projects from amateur to, like, amateur professional. Like, you need to know what the industry's like and what's expected of you, or you're gonna be disappointed, right? So,
Right.
um, I started a company and I did a Kickstarter and it was just blessed. Absolutely
Nice.
blessed. And I was like, "Okay, we're doing this. Like, we're doing this." So, I got a couple of artists on board and I've been working with them and, teaching them everything I know cuz like you said, I have such an opportunity with, like, my relationship with Ryan and Wilf and
Yeah.
Alex. It's like I should not hold that on myself, or like, I shouldn't keep that to myself.
Yeah.
And so right now we're finishing up a set of books called Noir, and it's like old detective gritty style stuff, but they're all infused with like another subgenre. So
Okay.
there's like noir and horror, there's like cyber noir, there's like occult noir, there's all these different elements. Everyone's got a different style. Like there's like a Disney style like classical
Okay.
artist, and her story is actually super gritty.
I think she might have been in one of the classes I was in.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, her stuff was amazing.
Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff. I'm really looking forward to where we're going. We're closing that down. We're about ready to finish all the inks, all the formatting, all the lettering, bind it up, and get all the physical products out to everybody, which has just been such a cool journey.
So the Kickstarter already got funded and closed and all
Yeah,
of that?
the book will be going up for sale. It like the digital versions of the chapters are up. So the way this one works is there's one full issue that's
Okay.
almost done. That's like a 20 something pager,
Yeah.
and that's called Fingers to the Bone. And then
Okay.
there's an anthology with it of a bunch of shorter stories that these other artists are going to continue with
Oh,
forward.
cool. Cool. Yeah, because I'd like to go on and support you any way I can. So make sure you let me know. I'd love to go on and, purchase one of the books or whatever.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So,
been dude, it's been a blast, and I would, now that we've, like, established a relationship and stuff, I definitely wanna have you do some cover work or whatever
oh
you think
man,
there.
it'd be my honor. I need to actually I need to do that. I did that a very long time ago. I had some stuff published, like some independent publishers and things. It's been over 20 years, and
Yeah.
I've definitely improved like
Yeah.
since way back then. And I actually I feel like my biggest revelations in just things clicking a little more after finishing Wils's last class. I didn't get to participate as much as I wanted to because of scheduling, but there were some things he said and the way he put a couple of things that really made a couple of things just click. Like, how it's stuff you already know or you've already been told, but if it just is worded in the right way or comes from a certain place, it's like,
Mhm.
oh, that makes sense now.
Yeah.
I had a couple of those moments in that. So I definitely love to do something with you guys for sure. But
Oh, 100%.
however I can support, do you guys have a website that people can go to check stuff out and
Yeah, yeah,
show their support to you?
crimsontitan.com. Uh,
Okay.
there's going to be, a soundtrack with the comic because we want to kinda touch all the senses, and I've been doing music. I was touring in metal bands out of high school, so,
Oh, awesome.
um, that's a big part is we wanna create atmosphere, we wanna create community, and we wanna bring other artists on the journey. So we're actually gonna be for phase 2, we're gonna be stepping it up. We're gonna be bringing in a couple more artists,
Cool.
especially if we can meet the funding goals.
Very cool, man. And then as far as your Instagram and everything, can you let people know what that is? I put all of this in the show notes for everybody, but anything you want to plug where people can keep track of you and what you're doing,
Oh,
make sure you
yeah.
let them know.
What is, my Instagram, the underscore casual hero.
Gotcha.
I think that's me.
So yeah, that is you. Yeah. Between that and the website, is that the best places that people can show their support and keep track of the projects and everything?
Absolutely. We have a all that information contains everything else. Like we have a YouTube. It's the same thing, Crimson Titan Studios.
Okay.
And we're going to be doing like motion comics on there. We've started developing like
Nice.
prologue stuff to actually fill out the world even
Oh,
more. Like,
very cool.
yeah.
Hitting it from different multimedia then. You
Yeah.
got your
We
music,
just
you
love
got your
creating.
yeah.
And I think that's why as we get better, this is going to be successful because everybody's excited. So they do a book or they do some pages and then they're like, oh, well, what about this thing that took place before that leads up? Well, let's do that in a
Yeah.
video that's free for everybody. So it's not
Nice.
behind a paywall. And like,
Yeah.
let's just give people tons of stuff to chew on and content. And
I
hopefully this
love
all
it.
leads up to like video games and everything. We're looking
Uh,
at programmers and
that's
stuff. So,
that's awesome, man. Yeah, it's very refreshing to see that approach, and you can tell the passion behind it, and that everybody involved loves what they're doing and is excited. Like that makes it resonate even more, I think.
oh, 100%.
Awesome, brother. Well, I would love to have you back on here as things develop further with that as well, so we can make sure we spread the word.
Oh, yeah. We'll definitely make an episode of that.
Very cool. Well, listen, hang out with me here for a moment while I tell everybody where they can find the podcast and all that good stuff. Guys, I always recommend that you watch the YouTube version. A lot of times when we have artists on here, we're showing different things, and sometimes we screen share on some of the past episodes, all sorts of cool stuff. Last artist I had on, he was showing off all these custom like artist editions he had like made himself. Like he had found scans and like printed his own books and had crazy stuff. Made me jealous. But guys, you can watch that over on youtube.com/@nerdy musings. Musings is spelled Mewzings. Make sure you give us a like, a subscribe. If you listen on one of the podcast platforms, we're on all the major ones: Spotify, Apple, all that good stuff. I guess Google Play isn't around anymore, but you can find us pretty much everywhere. Make sure you do that. If you want to give us a review, if you enjoy the show, it's much appreciated. In the meantime, everybody, I'm going to hit the outro. Thank you, Brey, for being on.
Thank
All
you.
right, everybody, keep it nerdy.